And we are live once again. Hello and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum, and welcome once again to In Your Face, a live Q&A. This is our second one that we've done, and hopefully this goes as well as last time. Who knows what's going to happen in this live stream. All right, first and foremost, I am back in the hot seat. Hey, what's up, brother? Already. I am back in the hot seat. This is your opportunity to bombard me with questions. I will do my very best to answer every last one of them, whether it's about cars, whether it's about sobriety, whether it's about romance, cooking, you name it. I'm going to do my very best to answer them within reason, obviously. At some point, the wife may she'll be here shortly. She's just coming home from work, and if she'll only let me get away with so much. All right. First things first. Let's get on to some current events. My hair is going to look a little shorter than usual. I had to lop off some length. Uh, I was getting severe headaches, and Princess Bay, being after she went to cosmetology school and all that cool stuff, um, she cut my hair and about 7 inches came off, and it feels so much better, so much easier to manage, but it's still a little bit longer than shoulder length, the way I like it. I like my hair long. So you'll notice that, but don't panic. I didn't all of a sudden. anyhow, before anyone has a chance to start asking me questions, like I said, I can see the screen pretty well. Just go ahead and throw them out there, but I do need to get a total of three questions out of the way. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to do my best to answer those straight away. After that, we'll start getting to questions as you all bombard me with them. I'm hoping. If not, this is going to be a very short live stream. Um, First things first. Third Gen 83 asked the question, why an inline six for a custom engine for Project Spirit? And I've already kind of answered this question for him in a phone conversation, but I thought it would be good. I went ahead and decided to go ahead and answer this question live for anybody else who may be asking that same question. Why an inline six for Project Spirit's custom engine? Why are we going to reuse that old inline six? And to answer that question, answer it properly, I won't get into a whole lot of the juicy details, except that what I want to point out is, number one, that is her original engine, and a lot of times, the first thing that a lot of people do is they'll take those old six cylinders, they'll yank them out, and then they'll throw a V8 in. I didn't want to do what everybody else does. Not to say that maybe later on down the road I won't do that, but for right now, I just don't want to do that. I want to do something different. Some years back, I worked with a tree trimming service, and I got to see the 306s at work in the pickup trucks, the F-150s. And most of those were late 70s, early 80s. I even seen some that went all the way into the 90s. And I really liked those trucks. They were very durable and just good work trucks. And when I seen how reliable that inline six was, I'm like, I would love to get the opportunity to work on a Ford inline and see what I could do with one. And now I have that opportunity. So why would I want to throw that opportunity away, just to do what everybody else is doing? You don't, And the other reason is that, and a lot of people forget this. Um, if you go way back, way back in the old days, um, you know, when V8 technology was still in its infancy, a lot of hot rodders didn't immediately go for the V8s. They went for what was tried and true, and that was the four cylinders and the six cylinders. The six cylinders were the most preferable. And this is in the old days. That being said, we've gotten away from that technology, and there's nothing wrong with that technology. Most people even forget at one time, on the dirt tracks, the circled dirt tracks, real stock car racing, if you will. Like we see today, still like right over in Farmington. all the way up until, like, I would say the early 90s, the inline six was still king of the dirt circle tracks. And, I don't know the exact time, but to my knowledge, inlines lasted a long time on those tracks, and they lasted on those tracks for a damn good reason. The bottom end torque for those things, because you have to kick the ass in sideways, to kind of do the dirt drifting. The inlines were perfect for that. They were great for it, and they didn't weigh as much as a V8, and they were more reliable than the V6s of the time. Now, of course, now today they've gotten the V8s all lightened up, and a lot of people have went to the V8s, but there was a time when inline sixes ruled the circle track, for like the hobbyist, like right over in Farmington. Also, a lot of people also forget there are still stories that are being trotted around from the drag strips. In the old days, I remember hearing a lot of stories where some guy might show up with a nice looking car, and it may not have sounded like much, but all of a sudden he'd outrun everything in his class, and pretty soon he was working on the next class, and pretty much the only thing he couldn't outrun was like the top fuel dragsters at that quarter-mile drag strip. Finally, someone gets the notion. They'll say, hey man, would you pop the hood? I'm curious what's under the hood. Pop the hood, and all of a sudden you see an inline six or a slant six, and he's been out running Hemis and everything like that all day long. Come find out it was a six-cylinder. I don't suspect that Project Spirit's inline six will ever be that good, but wouldn't it be kind of nice to see something along those lines again? And I thought it would be kind of cool to do it here on the channel. Now once that's done and we run it a little while, we will start looking at a V8, and we might have some fun with that. Will it be a 302? Probably not. Nothing wrong with the 302. I like the 302. The 302 is a fantastic Ford engine, but there's other Ford engines out there in that small block class that'll fit just fine in Project Spirit's engine bay that I would really like to see. So I hope that answers your question there, Third Gen 83. And anybody else who's asking, why the inline six? I just thought it would be cool to do something different. Really. Everybody does V8s already, Let's do something different. Let's do something that kind of stretches the imagination. Not everybody has the money to just go out and, let's do something different. Okay. But for the record, I will admit a V8 would be, I could get more power out of a V8 than I could an inline six. But it's the challenge. Anyhow, Bert of Bert TB. Do I like, hey, what's up? Bert of Bert TV. He asked the question, do I like the direction that the Prince Magnum channel is going? Well, that's a dang good question. And what is the direction right now? And that's also, kind of a two-part question. What's the direction the Prince Magnum channel is going, and do I like that direction? Well, the direction of the Prince Magnum channel right now is definitely focused on, again, having fun with our old cars, customizing the new cars, and just having a good time all around. So I enjoy that direction, and we're doing it on a budget. Not everybody can go out and afford these big, expensive, like front end kits and all that. Let's do it. Not everybody has that kind of cash. The objective behind do-it-yourself budget hot rodding is showing all of you how to put them back on the road, or take what you already have, customize it so it fits your personality, so you can enjoy it, and do it on a budget, because not everybody's got a whole lot of money laying around. I mean, that's just, all of us work for a living. I work for a living, okay? So because of that, that is the focus of do-it-yourself budget hot rodding, doing it on a budget that you can enjoy, and it fits your personality, okay? So in that regard, that's definitely, that's what, and I like that direction. I like that direction. We're not getting so focused on the numbers game too, horsepower numbers. I don't care about the horsepower numbers. Am I having a good time? That's what I'm worried about. Are you having a good time? You know what I'm saying? All right. And do I like that direction? Yes. Yes, I like that direction. Surviving Romance, kind of on a hiatus for a moment. I haven't had any really super good ideas to throw at you all, but that doesn't mean that I'm not still working behind the scenes. Surviving Romance has really been focused on trying to, nail it on the head, driving that whole thing home. If your other half's worth it, you're going to do it. And I like that direction. Again, you can't say enough about, doing right for your other half. Another, and In Your Face, again, In Your Face has really been going hard, trying to hit, nasty politicians. The main focus of In Your Face, which is not what it was supposed to be, but it ended up being this way. So in a way, I'm not happy with this. It's to get my kids home because we live in we have a corrupt government, a very corrupt government. Our corrupt government, they play they play on people's emotions today. They keep the real issues obscure from you all, and those that are smart enough to speak out against them, they do everything in their power to try to silence them or to destroy their lives. Why do they focus on taking children away from someone like me? Plain and simple, if they take away children from someone like me, then they take away future generations that will oppose them. Okay? So that's not what In Your Face was supposed to be about. So I'm not happy that it has to take this direction, but it's an unfortunate one. Okay? A look into our past. I'm pretty happy with the direction that it's been slowly taking. I'm very happy with that. A look into our past is a great way to take a look at some of the things that a lot of us have kind of forgotten about. Again, if there was one video that I enjoyed more than anything doing was the Polybius video. If you've not seen that, you definitely need to check that out because I'm telling you, it makes you really rethink a lot of things. Hi, honey. Yep. There's our Black Cat Galaxy, who had to join the live stream for at least just a few moments. Oh, she's in a mood. Anyhow, Sober Talk. Sober Talk, the only direction that I'm not happy with is I don't do it enough. She's getting fussy, honey. Mm-hmm. So I hope that answers your questions. On many levels, I'm happy with some of the direction that the channel's going. On the other hand, I'm kind of forced into some spots where I have to kind of put things on the back burner, or I just don't want to have to do it that way, but I'm kind of in a position where I have to. Okay? Off the chain, I'm having too much fun. So there you have that. I hope that answers your question, Bird of Bert TV. Bird of Bert TV also asked this question: what suggestions would you give to a young YouTube creator? Ooh. Think outside the box. Think outside the box. There's a lot of YouTubers right now that they find it's really easy to get the views and everything by doing video games, and they're absolutely right. They do video games, and hi Taver. There's my buddy Taver. They love their video games, but I'm going to suggest don't do that because there's already a million people doing that already, and the ones that are doing it are pretty well established. So you're really kind of you're already, there's your first roadblock, okay? Because you got guys like Captain Sparkles and, Game Grumps, and the list goes on. They're already established. So more people are going to be attracted to their videos because they're established. Now, if you wanted to do the gaming genre, I would definitely recommend the nostalgic video game genre. There's a guy right now that he's, hey, what's up? Stick around long enough and you'll be able to start throwing questions at me at any moment. I just got to finish this one up real quick. Okay? But if you were going to do anything in the video game genre, I would definitely recommend the nostalgic stuff. Go back to like the old Atari 2600 or maybe like the old NES games and stuff like. If you really wanted to do the gaming genre, more in particular, he's not happy either.
No, I know. He's never happy.
That's just Taver. But that would, but try to, if you want to do anything that's not really explored that much and will give you a decent audience, definitely start looking at like the backyard engineer stuff. You know, I've never had it. I couldn't tell you if I like a lobster.
Really?
I've never really ate lobster. I couldn't tell you.
Oh, I love lobster.
Right. Um, I will tell you, when it comes to seafood, one of the things I like to do, we've got this cute little charcoal grill. And what I like to do is I like to take tuna steaks and I've got this marinade, roll them in sesame seeds, and I like to grill those tuna steaks, right on a charcoal grill. Absolutely fantastic. And with tuna, medium rare, it's just a wonderful flavor. I would not recommend taking it past medium rare because the problem is that it starts tasting like cat food. It is. We did, a matter of fact, the very first time we got a charcoal, when we first got our little charcoal grill, that's exactly what we did. Was we did tuna steaks on it, and it was really good. And maybe we might have to do right. We might have to actually do that. I'm working on an edited video. You're gonna come over, huh? Well, then just let me know. Let me know when, I'll let y'all know. um, I love to cook. Which recipe are you talking about? The tuna steaks? I mean, I would love to do the tuna steaks. Again. Oh, you're coming over for Thanksgiving. All right. Now, I will openly admit the wife usually does. Oh, tuna steaks for Thanksgiving. That would be different. Give up the bird for fish. I could do that. I could do that.
That'd be good.
That would be good. That would be good. Most definitely. I love seafood, and while we're on the subject of seafood, one of the fish that I usually push when I do seafood is tilapia. I know there's some people that have a problem with that. Some of your more fish connoisseurs really look down their noses at tilapia, but there's a reason why I do. And again, I like tuna, I like salmon, but the problem is that those particular fish are a little hard to sustain in aquafarms, and at the rate that we're fishing our oceans, and I have nothing against the fishermen that fish those oceans, but we're eating those fish are hard to they have a hard time repopulating. So we're going to fish our oceans dry if we, as crazy as that might sound, is that a good way to put it? I guess it is. But because of that, I try to, when I do anything here on the Prince Magnum channel, I try my best to stay with sustainable fish. And tilapia is a nice, affordable, sustainable fish that you can get just about anywhere, which is why I like it. For fish and chips, which I usually trade out the fries for onion rings. And I do homemade onion rings. As a matter of fact, the batter that works on the tilapia works well on the onion rings. I know I'm going to have to do that episode now.
Is that Katie who's up there?
No.
Who's that? I can't read that from this far away.
Oh, see me at 6. Again, I love food. And Surviving Romance, there's a lot of cooking on it. I love to cook. Typically, I have found that there's something about taking your other half out and about on a night on the town. But it's also sometimes I love to set up the candlelit dinner right here at home, and you can save all sorts of money and still have money left over for tickets to the movies. It's one of those things. Do you want to take them to a real fancy restaurant, or do you want tickets to the movies, but you're going to have to do the cooking yourself? So to me, what do you want to trade off on? So I mean, to me, if I could do more on less, romance doesn't have to hurt the pocketbook. Hi, Galaxy. She's not liking my cigar smoke.
She doesn't like being held. She's not a holding kitty.
No, she's not. So
she heard the fish, so she was interested.
Right. Galaxy likes her fish. So I know one of the next things that I also want to do is show how to do homemade refrigerator pickles. good for about 3 months. I want to do some different pickle recipes that I've kind of played around with over time. I love homemade pickles. Someone asked me that a long time ago. What was my homemade? Um, and you take the pickle marinade out and turn it into a vinaigrette. It goes great on salads. Anyhow, you guys are learn. Yeah, learn. I'm actually a pretty decent cook. Um, it's just if you like food, this is a good spot to come in on. Mm. All right. An apple a day keeps it wallowed away. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Actually, every once in a while, I'll even make something that it doesn't quite turn out the way it's supposed to, but it's one of those things. You gotta have one of those recipes that kind of falls flat of the chosen idea. But hey, that every once in a while, even I have that happen. I actually had one time when the fondue recipe that I did probably a couple years ago. The sauce started breaking. The fondue, the cheese sauce started breaking right in the bowl. I was like, son of a gun, but I acted it out, and but only one person in the entire time caught it. You got to have those moments where a recipe goes sideways. Maybe we ought to do a pickled apples one time. A sweetened pickled apple. Here on the channel, because some people don't even realize you can pickle apples.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you ooh me? I could do it. I can pickle just about anything. Shoot, I was once pickled. Anyhow, making reference to my days in before I got sober. Again, go ahead and throw your questions out. Don't be afraid to. Yes, just about any produce you can pickle. There was once a time in this country that there was no refrigeration. As a matter of fact, even in Germany, we typically tease the Germans, which I come from. One side of my family is predominantly German, but and we make fun of them because of the sauerkraut, which is just basically a pickled cabbage. And I mean, we used to make, we make cracks like that, but I mean, honestly and truthfully, that was the only way to really preserve a lot of foods back then. We didn't have refrigeration, so you can pickle any produce you can pickle. There's a recipe out there, and of course, we know that you can pickle fish. We know that you can pickle eggs. As a matter of fact, there's a channel called Townsend's that does scotched eggs, which is a pickled egg. You can, even Thomas Jefferson wrote in some of his memoirs about some of his favorite types of pickles. Shoot, I know. Now you're talking politics. Okay. Our current president, and I've already, believe it or not, I'm kind of waiting to kind of finish throwing my hat in there, but I have already put myself up for a Democratic nominee for presidential candidacy. The reason being is I don't necessarily think I'm going to win, but there's a lot of issues in our country that's just not being addressed. Number one, for the record, I'm a partial Donald Trump supporter. Partial. There are some things that he has done that I think has been fantastic, but there are other things that he's wrong about. Number one, we don't need to be focusing on foreign politics. Well, we need to be focusing on home, okay? Getting us out of the Paris, the Paris Agreement. I totally agreed with that because it was a one-sided agreement, and we shouldn't have been involved in that. Okay, he did turn back on the economy. Now, not necessarily did he do it necessarily right, but at least he did something. Going back to it, and if there's any point in history that I'll point to was during the Great Depression. Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was a Democrat, by the way, made the statement, try something. If it doesn't work, try something else. If that doesn't work, try something else. But above all, try something. And our current president did do that. It's not necessarily the right answer, but at least it's something, okay? As opposed to what we were already dealing with, where we had, big corporate businesses that if they failed would have been a huge hole in our economy. And we're still seeing problems from that. We haven't fully solved that issue. So he's not, what our president is doing right now, I'm not happy with, because he's focusing on issues overseas when we really should be focusing on home. And how much on home? We need to be rooting out the corruption, not just in federal government, but all the way down to the local level. Because once you root out the problems at the federal level, where do you think those corrupt politicians are going to go? They're going to go running home and start all over again back home. So you've got to go all the way to the local level, okay? Corruption is a serious problem in our government, and he's not focusing his issues there in getting rid of those problems. During his whole campaign, he kept saying he was going to drain the swamp. Mr. President, you can't drain the swamp if you don't get rid of the alligators first. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Now, there's a particular person who's been involved in alternate media, not conspiracy theories. There is a difference. And I'll give a quick description, but the Alex Jones Show, he's really good at alternate media. He does get tied up in conspiracy theories, but if you stay in the realm of the alternate media, it is sometimes too hard. He has a nasty habit of doing some fear mongering of his own. And I don't always agree with some of his views. That's just me. But he has exposed some pretty nasty stuff that goes on in our government. We now know a great deal about what happened to John F. Kennedy, and unfortunately, we're still going to be discovering more as time goes on. There was like several thousand pages on the assassination, and thank God those are now open to the public. And thanks to our president who made sure that those were opened, we can now start looking at exposing those corrupt people that were involved in our government, which some of them are still alive, and they need to be facing criminal charges. So he did do right on that regard. And there's talk now that he's getting ready to allow the 9/11 documents, the actual ones, be exposed. And it's about time, because the family members that lost loved ones, they deserve answers, okay? Which we all know there's more than what was released to the public. So thank God he's doing it, because the more and more he releases those documents, the more and more real power goes back to where it needs to be in our federal government. You know what? I will be open and honest about that. I really don't know enough about the Martin Luther King trial. I know that Martin Luther King, it wouldn't surprise me if government officials didn't do it. We know that our government was spying on John Lennon because of the worries that, I'll be honest with you, I don't know enough about it. Now you're going to make me look it up. I'll have to actually look into that. That's just a fine example. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I even came across for years, I kept hearing that it was actually during the Chinese Revolution, the Cultural Revolution in China, and that whole thing. I've even heard rumors that even Harry S. Truman, a president from Missouri, was involved in selling out basically selling us out and installing communism in China. How true that is, I don't know yet. I haven't looked enough at it, but it's interesting. You'll find all sorts of backroom deals like that involved with our government and the CIA, which is not, for the record, the CIA is not allowed to operate with inside the U.S. borders. They're only allowed for intelligence gathering in other countries. That's their job. But ironically enough, anyhow, my cigar keeps going out. I love this. I love this. Good questions. Good questions. You got another good one for me? Throw a good one at me. Throw a curveball. Let's see. Actually, I'm out of those questions. Oh. That one I didn't know about. Amelia Earhart. Now, I did know that there was a possibility that she may have been captured by the Japanese just before our involvement with World War II. I had heard rumors of that, but I'm not 100% sure on what may have happened. Yeah, I had heard rumors of that. It came across that video. Yeah, there was a picture leaked. For those who do not know, Amelia Earhart was one of the. Oh, they hit it. That doesn't surprise me. That would rank right up there with the fall of the Philippines. You know, Amelia. For those who do not know, Amelia Earhart was the woman that was the real pioneer in aviation way back in the day when aviation was still in its infancy. Amelia Earhart was kind of the first woman of aviation, and she's definitely a role model for everyone. Right up there with like Eddie Rickenbacker. Shoot, all those names go on and on. But you know, she was one of the first women in aviation, and evidently her plane had crashed in somewhere where the Japanese had occupied it, and they were tried as spies. And to my knowledge, no one really exactly knows exactly what happened, but most likely she was executed for being a spy. Her and her other half. There was a picture leaked, but other than that, I really don't know a whole lot about it. I love history. I was hoping more people would jump on. What the heck? Ironically. All right. Oh, you're going to sit in on this one? Oh. Okay. 9/11. All right. Government involvement. There is an excellent chance that our government was involved. Now, every time it gets loaded to YouTube, it gets taken down. But there's been two different episodes of Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theories that dealt with the 9/11 issue. The one on the World Trade Center itself.
May I?
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest looking up a video about whether or not thermite can melt steel beams.
That's a good one. Which brings to mind the Jesse Ventura conspiracy theories videos. He had his own TV show, but about the time he was doing the stuff on JFK, he was taken off the air, and right now he lives in Mexico on a no-fly list for the U.S. A former governor at that, you know. He did one on the Pentagon and on the World Trade Center itself. The questions that I have are, number one, where are the black boxes from the planes that hit those towers? And all the time, I mean, when those black boxes can be at the bottom of the ocean where, you know, normal submarines can be crushed and that sort of thing, and you can go up there, you may not be able to reach them, but you can still hear the pinging, you know, of those black boxes, that the weight of that, you're going to, and they're designed to withstand immense amount of heat. You're going to tell me that jet fuel, just jet fuel, burned them, you know, melted them up, that they were never recovered? I don't quite buy that one. So what would those flight recorders have to say? The other question I have is, why did Tower 6 fall? We know about the two main towers, but why are we not talking about Tower 6 that was never touched by a plane? Okay. Why did it fall? On top of that, when you look at the 9/11 attack at the Pentagon, the number one question I have there is a plane struck it. Okay, where's the fuselage? Where's the plane's debris? When you look at it, there is no debris. It was vaporized as if a missile hit it. That begs the question that and Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theories, they keep taking the videos down and relentlessly people keep putting them back up for them to be taken down again. So it's kind of a hit and miss, but definitely take a look at those videos and ask the question also, can thermite burn through construction steel I-beams? That's a good one, honey. I like that.
The answer is yes, it can.
Yes, it can. Okay.
Under the right circumstances.
Okay. Area 51. Area 51 is a secret, Air Force base. Okay. And I know that it is not listed as Area 51. I also know that's where we test some very interesting, interesting aircraft. Do I think aliens are involved? Who knows? I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, honestly, it's been a long time since I've even heard about, UFO sightings. To be honest with you, I mean, if aliens are coming here to find intelligent life, I would say in the last 10 years, they have decided there is no intelligent life here on Earth and is not paying any more attention to us. That's just the way it is. Have you seen some of our millennials lately? Some of them, not all of them, but some of them. That being said, do I think there may be who knows? If there is, I have heard stories about the Men in Black, but most likely they're probably Air Force suits, if you will. Guys that are enlisted with the Air Force in plain black suits, if you will, the Men in Black, who are going around trying to keep this under wraps. We know that there has been alien sightings, and that information has been released to the public. But there are still some out there that try to disprove that. The Arizona Lights. There's tons of pictures all over the internet, including actual video footage. The governor of Arizona himself had no idea what he was looking at, but yet we were told that I've heard that one too, but who knows? Who knows on that one? I think in a situation like that, people aren't really trying to keep track of the faces. I think they're just so damn scared, in all honesty. Again, there is video proof. Okay, well, now I'm going to have to look that up. And I'm glad you bring this stuff up. Again, Area 51, I know that the Lockheed Nighthawk spy plane was developed there. I know that all of stealth technology is developed there, including like the new Predator, fighter planes. I know that the stealth fighter and the stealth bomber were developed there. I also know about a trial that this one is not talked about that much. There was a particular trial where people were getting really, really sick that worked at Area 51, civilian contractors. And they were getting sick. Some of them were dying, and they couldn't even give their names and all that, and they were suing our government. Come to find out, they were burning radioactive waste, and the radiation was through the smoke and everything was absorbing into the human bodies, causing radiation sickness, and the government was covering it up, not taking care of these people, and they were dying. By the way, thanks to, I think if I remember correctly, under Bill Clinton, there's a document that goes in front of the president and I'm hoping our current president decides not to do this, that makes Area 51 exempt from all EPA regulations. Um, that's a big no-no. Okay, radiation is a bad thing when it's in, when it involves the human body. It's horrible. Just if you don't believe me, just go ahead and call Japan. They'll put you in touch with a guy from Hiroshima or Nagasaki. That one again. I haven't spent a whole lot of time studying up on aliens in a while. Real quick. Okay, awesome. Um, I don't know if you would call this seeing a UFO, but I did see something that might be considered a UFO. I can't explain it, and I'll go ahead and tell the story now, since we're talking about aliens. Again, I can't. It was in the 1980s, so we didn't have a camera, but there was a lot of people who witnessed this. Matter of fact, um, as a matter of fact, there was a back then CB radios was still all the rage, and my mom actually had an '80s GMC Jimmy, one of the real ones. They had the detachable camper shell and all that cool stuff, and she had a CB radio in there. So I actually heard the truckers talking about this because no one knew what it was. But there was about, if I remember correctly, there was about 4 or 5 lights that kind of looked like searchlights. Okay, kind of. And I'll explain in a little bit more detail. And they would circle around, they would slam together, bounce out, and continue spinning. Okay. And what was interesting about it is when you look at searchlights, there's usually a high powered beam that connects, and then you can see the light itself kind of as far as that light will go. Stop me if I'm wrong. Okay. Well, there was no beams that connected to the tops of those lights. On top of that, they continued to follow along the highway for many, many, many miles, probably around 20 miles. And, I pointed it out to my mom, and she's like, oh, it's just searchlights. I said, Mom, they're following alongside the highway here, running parallel with the highway. As best as I could, I was like 8 years old when I seen this. So it was like 1988. And don't ask me what highway, I just know it was here in Missouri. Um, and she's like, no, 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 really, Mom, look at it. And I said, I don't know what it is. I said, for all we know, it's freaking aliens. And finally, it dawns on her, and she gets really scared. And all the truckers were actually talking about it. So if there's any truckers who are watching this right now, you might remember this, who, coming through Missouri. And then all of a sudden, as we're watching, the lights spun together, slammed in, and shot straight up, disappearing from sight. Never seen anything like it, except one other time. I was with my dad, and I pointed it out to him, seeing the... What's that? Hold up. Okay. You got questions. That was on the news in 2003. Same thing, same exact. But I seen this in the 1980s. I seen same thing I'm describing. Where was it located? If you say Missouri on 67 or I-55, I'm Florida. Okay. So I seen the same exact thing that you're describing in 2003. I seen in Missouri in the 1980s, and I seen it twice, but I haven't seen it since then. So I couldn't tell you anything more about it. So ironically enough, I don't know what it is. I mean, it could be aliens. It could have been a government experiment. That's no coincidence. Again, who knows? Who knows? And if somebody knows, they better be talking. Yeah, I seen that when I was like 9 years old. And I mean, the same exact thing. I mean, I cannot explain it. And in both instances, my dad was like, well, he said, I guess I guess this might just prove that there is existence of other life out there. And he said they're looking at us to see if they can find intelligent life. So, and he was told, my dad was totally cool about it. He was totally cool about it. Yep. Yeah. Should that surprise you? I mean, they could have came back and decided to take another look see and decided to go to Florida. I hear the weather's beautiful in Florida. Anyhow, but yeah, I mean, again, just one of those real awesome things that we don't think about. Is there life out there? Well, yeah, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. Are they more intelligent and advanced than us? I'm sure some of them are. I mean, how just smoking through. Who knows? Then again, for all we know, it could be a new government, flight technology that we just don't know about. We just don't know about. They may be developing something, and maybe it didn't quite work out the way they thought in the 1980s, and then they tried it again later on. Who knows? Um, you know, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. We've already found life on Mars technically. So granted, it's in microscopic form, but that is still life. Okay. So if we can find it in microscopic form, what's not to say that we can, that. So are there aliens? I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. You know, have they in our, in humans here on Earth? I don't know. Probably not anymore. No, I don't believe the moon landing was fake. There's plenty of evidence to support that we did make it. Okay, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, granted, the technology was very poor at the time, but we've went back to the moon numerous times. Okay, and to me, I believe that it happened. Okay, I believe that it happened. I know there's some people that are skeptics of it, but I mean, you know, there's no way you could really to keep something like that a conspiracy like that as quiet. It's not possible. No way. Not something like that. I don't believe you could keep keep that quiet. And thankfully, uh, John F. Kennedy pushed the space program so we could put a man on the moon. We beat them Ruskies there. I'm sorry, you could definitely tell I was a child of the 80s, and we had a problem with communists. Well, and let me put it like this. You got to realize, okay, if you will, the black background that you're talking about to fake the moon landing, uh, that's actually more difficult than you think. Okay, if you will, just working here on the Prince Magnum channel, lighting oftentimes becomes a big, difficult issue, um, and I deal with those issues all the time. So I can just imagine on a set to do the to fake the lunar landing. Mm-mm. It would be more difficult than you would imagine. Okay, so to say that and to keep all of those people kind of quiet. You know, I'll give you a fine example. One of the toughest movies that was ever filmed, and still one of my favorites all the time. One of my favorite movies of all time is Disney's Tron, not Tron Legacy. Granted, it wasn't bad. Granted, it wasn't a bad movie, but it was more eye candy. I love the original Tron movie. And if you were to ever get the anniversary edition and look at the special features, they talk about the challenges of the backlit animation. Thank you, thank you. The backlit animation that they used at that time required a lot of work with the black background. By the way, they originally were going to try a white, but that was even worse. So just kind of bear that in mind. And when you take a look at it in that light, it would be very difficult to do that on set. It wouldn't work. It would not work. And that's coming from experience trying to do a YouTube channel, and I don't have near the stuff. So just imagine that for a second. I mean, it's more difficult than you would think. You know, it's just a very difficult. I'm telling you. Good question though. Good question. Throw me another curveball. Throw me a good one. Someone throw me a good question. A real good one. Keep me going here. I'm enjoying it. Let's see. We've covered a lot of conspiracy stuff. I've not been challenged this much in a while on conspiracies. Oh, real quick. JFK files. We did find out. Wait a minute. No, he did not. He was toying around with this idea for years. No, we did not do the flat Earth theory. The flat Earth theory, that's a very old one. But let me answer the first question. Our president, our current president, amazingly enough, he'd been toying around with this idea for a long time, and finally he got tired of the way things were being run. As a matter of fact, long before he ran for president, one of the biggest complaints that he had is this country doesn't make anything anymore. We'll use Project Spirit, for example. One of the things that I love to point out about Project Spirit is right on the side of her carburetor, stamped right in there. I could point it out to you anytime you want to see it. Except today because it's starting to get dark out. But right on the side of the carburetor, made in USA. And we're proud of that, okay? There was a time when everything was made in this country. Like Buck Knives and Old Timer and on and on and on. You know, knives, guns, you name it, everything was made in this country. Today, not much is, okay? And that's a real shame because, I mean, that should be something we're proud of, but we're not. As a matter of fact, we're even falling further and further behind in the world of science. Nowadays, there's really, and on any research team, there's really only two people from this country, and that's usually the director and the janitor, okay? The rest of them come from other countries. Our current president was not happy with that, and he did something about it, and he ran. Now, currently, I will say that there needs to be a cleanup of the Democrat Party. You're kind of right. It has reached certain limits, but there's a reason why it's reached its limits. But that's another subject for another time that we'll get into, believe it or not, in Sober Talk. We'll get into that one in Sober Talk because of where we've hit, what roadblock we have hit. And you would be surprised at that roadblock. What's the difference? The difference that we see today is that there's that a lot of the technology is getting smaller. We're making it more compact. Actually, let me give a better example. The internet as we know it today has gotten simpler to use. As a matter of fact, I was a web page hobbyist. I could build web pages, and I started doing that back in 1998, to be exact. In 1998, I started learning how to build web pages on a small scale and learned to understand HTML coding. Started learning JavaScript. Started getting pretty good at that. I was even working up to where I could actually handcraft on computer, on the internet, my own message boards, chat rooms, things like that. I was looking at doing stuff like that. But then alcoholism eventually stepped in and things changed, okay? Today, you don't have to do all that. Okay. Uh, Websites like Facebook and Twitter and things like that have taken away the I will say have kind of taken away, but in a way I'm not happy that they've done this, but they've taken away the need to build your own website because that was the original social media back then. There's even talk nowadays. You'll hear people kind of talk about the good old days of GeoCities or Angel Fire, and on and on and on. Which, by the way, I used to have a GeoCities website and an Angel Fire website at one point in time. But today, with the internet changing the way that it has, it's kind of taken away that a bit. But at the same time, it's also limited us because there used to be a time when it was very easy to search out things. It was very easy to do things on the internet, a lot easier than it is today if you knew what you were doing. But that was back then. It depends on how you want to look at it. But for the average, I guess you could say for the average person, the advances in the internet just itself makes it easier to use. But for someone like myself who likes a little, some things to be complex, unfortunately, it's kind of ruined it for us. For those of us who enjoy, say, like building a web page or something like that. And again, before there was before Google and other companies like that really started making what we like to call the surface web, everything was the deep web back then in many ways. As a matter of fact, eventually it ended up being bought by, but there used to be a search engine called InfoSeek, and then it became Go, and now it's owned by Google, unfortunately. But InfoSeek used to be a really good search engine, and you could find all sorts of stuff on there, including some things you probably didn't want to find. But again, that was before we had a surface web. Interesting question. But for the record, really right now it seems like the focus on technology is just kind of connecting us a little bit more, which I think is kind of a bad thing. I'm glad I grew up in the 90s. As a teenager, because there are some things I'm very glad did not make it to the internet. It's like, whoa, I'm glad that no one else seen that but me. Anyhow, good question. Good question. What was the other question? Someone asked me a really good one, and I totally forgot it. Let me see if I can. Flat Earth. Okay. The flat Earth theory. Okay, the flat Earth theory. Let's kind of go back in time, and you'll have to excuse me. I'm going to get a little biblical on you. If you really examine the Bible really kind of describes a flat Earth theory. Okay, and there are some really die-hard religious types that are pushing it. For the record, it wouldn't make any sense to really believe in the flat Earth. We have already long since disproven that, okay? So, I mean, there are some things that come from the flat Earth theory that do make more sense than even gravity. Like one of the things they discussed was like buoyancy, and that sort of thing. So dealing with mass and weight and things like that, that makes sense, as opposed to just gravity. But on the other hand, the flat Earth theory, that is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. There's actual pictures now that completely disproved the flat Earth theory, where there was a guy standing on top of Mount Everest. He took a picture and you could see that the Earth was rounded. Yes, that's exactly what they do. And, it's so, I mean, I can understand that. And this is not anything new. By the way, Christopher Columbus was not a flat Earth theorist. Uh, he knew that the Earth was round, and everyone else knew that the Earth was round. Okay, they thought Christopher Columbus was an idiot because he thought basically he thought the world was smaller than what it actually was. Um, Everyone already, even in Christopher Columbus's time, knew that the Earth was round. Okay, and we have. There's even been Greek mathematicians that have been able to prove the size of the Earth's circumference, and that sort of thing. So as far as that goes, the Earth being no, that is ridiculous. And I think that has something to do with, again, there's some diehard religious types, and then there's some that really they're really bizarre people. I don't know what to think of that. Now, the hollow Earth theory has more weight than the flat Earth theory. Okay. Um, Ironically enough, I don't worry about overpopulation. The reason, and that's another really good one, the Earth's capacity for overpopulation. Um, if there's one thing that I think is going to happen, okay, um, I honestly, a lot of people that are worried about global warming, climate change, and things like that. I will say this: the Earth has been here for over 4 billion years. Okay, and in all reality, and I'm going to challenge everyone's thinking on this. In all reality, do we honestly think that when humans have only been here for what, you know, a couple 100,000 years, when the Earth has been here for 4 billion years, do we really think we're a threat? As the people who lost their lives in the tsunami in Southeast Asia, if they think they're a threat to the Earth today, ask the people at Pompeii if they think they're a threat to the Earth today. How about the people who died in the earthquake in the 90s in California if they think they're a threat to the Earth today? The Earth is alive and well. And if you pay close attention, viruses and bacteria are getting a lot more resilient than they once were. Uh, as a matter of fact, my last year of the medical field, uh, I had a total of 13 staph infections. On my 10th one, I had a small stroke. Ask me if I think I'm a threat to the Earth today. And I'm going to tell you no, because that's the thing. If the Earth thinks we're a threat, it's going to wipe us out. Okay? So am I worried about overpopulation? Nope. Because if you take a look at current generations right now, it seems as if we're regressing as far as the intelligence level. No, I am not a threat to the Earth today. Believe me, this cruel world, if she decides that she wants to go genocidal on the human race, she will. Okay, and she'll do it, and there's not a dang thing we can do about it. So, am I worried about overpopulation? Not at all. Actually, if anything, I actually see that we're heading towards a global catastrophe where the Earth is going to cull the herd a little bit and remind us who's in charge. But that's just my thoughts, you know, and anyone's welcome to debate that, but that's just. What do I think about colonizing planets? Honestly, before we start looking at colonizing other planets, we might want to worry about maybe fixing the problems with our current populace before we consider, looking to the stars. Because I really don't, in an intergalactic war, if you will, when we start thinking about intergalactic, do I think that the intergalactic community would be able to tolerate a lot of the stuff that we pull here on Earth? And I really don't think they would tolerate it. Um, you know, if anything, we need to stop being so doggone divided on so many things, and we need to start finding common ground. So, what do I think about that? We need to start fixing us before we start thinking about looking to the stars. More than anything, we really should consider fixing us first. Good question, though. But am I for it? When the time is right. Mars would be a good place to start. How do we fix us? I'll be honest with you. Where do you begin? First and foremost, I mean, unfortunately, we do need a government, but we need a government that's not corrupt. Thomas Jefferson said it best: every 20 years, we should have a revolution. What type of revolution? I don't know. Hopefully, one that requires as little violence as possible. Um, we need to start, we need to start letting, we're, I don't mean to bash religion, and I don't want to bash religion. I don't like bashing religion. That bashing religion is a bad thing, but religions have a lot of common ground, more than they'd like to admit. And if we can find common ground there, then maybe we can all coexist. And that's what it really boils down to, is coexisting. Finding more greener, reusable technology to build better world economy. More than anything, I think if the U.S. is going to start fixing problems, we need to start fixing problems at home. And we need to stop letting religion dictate that policy. Because anytime religion and government get involved, someone always gets burned at the stake. And I like steak, so let's not ruin that too. Uh, you know, just something to think about. We need to find common ground, and we need to build on that. Because it seems like we have, at least in this country, we have regressed an awful lot. For the record, being a member of AA, I have sat in a room with people of many religions and have found that we can all find common ground. John, no, I haven't. Who is? Can you tell me about this? Throw it out there, and I need to quit smoking so much. But anyhow, um, you know, again, common ground, and we can start fixing our society from there. Okay, lay it on me, because I just can't remember the name. It's hard to say. I'm always looking at something. Ah. For those who are wondering, he's got. Okay, Imagine read it in 2000, in the 2000s. Okay. I'm gonna say now, when it comes to one of the people I love, as far as getting us to think differently, that was George Carlin, and this world really misses George Carlin. We need him. A time traveler. I've heard of this guy, but I've never actually looked at any of his work. Time travel is an interesting one. 2030. Okay. And what did he say happened in 2030? Nuclear war? I hope not. Well, interestingly enough, uh, on that subject, Albert Einstein, after the Second World War, said, I don't know what weapons we will use in World War III, but I can pretty well guarantee that in World War IV, it'll be sticks and stones. Basically saying we'll blow each other back to the Stone Age, is what he felt we would do. So interesting, interesting. Um, I hope that we never see a nuclear war in our time. Um, I'm hoping we can. Really, it won't be countries versus each other. Really, who against who? People versus government. It's a possibility. That is always a possibility. I think. Well, for the record, at one point in time, here on the channel, I openly admitted that I was with some of the technology I know about the old engines and how to convert them over to not use gasoline anymore, to run strictly off of moonshine. Um, I actually learned this from an old moonshiner. He actually taught this to me. Now this guy is long since gone, and it is debated. There's a lot of debate around his death, even though he's not widely known. Um, Oh, the scary. Okay, let me hear the scariest part. Oh, he sent the blueprints of the time machine. Do we know? Do we know what it looks? How? Huh? Irony, irony. Well, even in our time, there's still ancient technologies that still trying to figure out. Huh? 110% accurate. Now you're gonna make me look this guy up. I'm gonna have to learn more about it. Real quick, while we're on that subject, um, uh, there's still ancient technologies that we're still learning about, like the Roman computer that was found on a sunken Roman ship, or it might have been Greek, one of the two, uh, which we're still learning about. Of course, the Baghdad batteries. Parallel, again. Um, I did one recent. I did a video not too long ago. I think it was an In Your Face where I talked about parallel universes and the Mandela effect, um, and kind of had to debunk that a little bit. But do I believe in parallel universes? Of course I do. Do I believe that occasionally they cross? Of course I do. But do I believe that the timelines have crossed? No, I don't. That's kind of an interesting one. Um, we actually had to use Project Spirit for that basis, with the Ford logo supposedly changing. It's same logo. That's always been on there. It's just one of those things. Um, Thank you. I'll appreciate that. Thank you. Make sure I have that video. Rock my world. I see. I love stuff like that. Makes me think outside the boundaries of the norm. Wife's trying to tell me to wrap it up, but doggone, we're busy here. Well, I'm learning things too, you know. Um, Wife's always trying to keep me on a time constraint. Um, but anyhow, sounds like the cats are into something.
Yep, they
Trying to think up a couple more things for me. Well, all right, real quick. Let's see. Friday the 13th, the Prince Magnum channel will be at Laz's Bar and Grill for karaoke. It's ladies' night, but I'll be on stage singing karaoke. I will not be drinking alcohol. Not giving up that 12 years of sobriety, which August the 7th, not only will I be turning 39, but more importantly, I'll be 12 and a half years without a drink, which is really, really exciting. Um, my sobriety is important to me. How you doing, Galaxy? Brain has rules that doesn't exist. Now you're talking. Now you're talking metaphysical science, which is not recognized by the actual scientific community. But do I believe that? Of course I do. Why? There's plenty of evidence to sustain that. If you ever get interested, take a good long look at MK Ultra, you'll be surprised at some of the things that do come up. For the record, MK Ultra did predict the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's correct. You have to be open-minded about everything. Again, uh, I hope that the scientific community will one day recognize MK Ultra. MK Ultra was the study of ESP and the possibility of using that to predict what the communist Russians were going to do. They did all sorts of experimentation, which eventually led up to them studying things about like the Manchurian Candidate, things like that. Again, Jesse Ventura did cover this in Conspiracy Theories. Do I think it's that extensive? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? But MK Ultra was a study of trying to use ESP. There was all sorts. As a matter of fact, okay, you'll tell me something. All right. Well, I'm waiting for you to put that question down. The use of LSD came about during MK Ultra. Technology hitting a roadblock. Okay. I think we're too busy enjoying being connected per se on tech, but I think the next big technological advance is just right around the corner. What if the government isn't releasing? It would not surprise me. Well, here's an example of them being ahead of us, not releasing all this. The NSA took like all these PlayStation 3s apart and built their own supercomputer, which is designed to track down hackers. By the way, when's the last time we heard of Anonymous doing anything? That's because the government has the technology now to track down members of Anonymous. I believe that one as well. We'll get into that one in another up and coming In Your Face on some ideas when it comes to that sort of thing. How to get that cure actually published to the public. I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people on that one, but hey, that's part of In Your Face. Sometimes you got to piss people off to get them to rethink their actions. I hate throwing money at it, and for years kept hearing that. It is. I really am not happy with our cure for cancer right now. It's as someone put it as slash, burn, and poison. Okay, and that's not good enough. All right, that's not good enough for me. I think we're beyond that. I think with the technology is there. Talking to a guy who worked in the medical field for 13 years. Well, the medical field does too. Pharmaceutical companies do. Think about it like this: pharmaceutical companies, if they're giving you the medicine to just keep you alive and not cure it, well, that's another one. Again, every time you turn around, we get closer and closer to what communist China does. But if you think about it like this, the pharmaceutical companies make their money off of keeping you alive, not necessarily curing you, but keeping you alive. That being said, if you think about it in the sense that that's how they make their money, it makes total sense. If they give you the cure, they're not making money off of you anymore. In some ways, that's the roadblock where people are making their money. Which again, for the record, take a good close. if you look at some of the stuff, ex- war is a great way. Of course they do. It's population control. It's a great way to keep the populace afraid. And when people are afraid, they make bad decisions and they start trusting people they shouldn't. That's why we're always at war. There's money to be made in death, evidently. When we should really be trying to make our money with keeping life healthy, you know. But hey, that's just me. I'm going to try not to pick up another smoke during the rest of this live stream. That'll be enough out of you, peanut gallery in there. Anyhow. All right. Let's see. Real quick. Again, the Prince Magnum channel will be at Lazarus Bar and Grill. I should be there no later than 9 o'clock. Be on stage singing karaoke. I'm gonna try to get away with doing more love songs than I have in previous trips to Lazarus Bar and Grill. I like singing love songs more than just doing the hard-hitting rock and roll, but I will include the usual rock and roll songs that I typically do. So if you're in the area, you want to see me on stage singing, from what I'm told, it's much better live than it is when you watch it on YouTube. But again, that's totally up to you. If you're able to be there or be square. Also, the Prince Magnum channel is looking at, let me get a list of the car shows that are going to be coming up that we're going to try to attend. Wopstock is how they put it. Wopstock. August 18th, the Prince Magnum channel should be there. We've kind of promised ourselves to be there to help raise money, of all things, a pagan going to help raise money for a Bible camp. Just take that in a moment. Why? Because, hey, you know, spiritual growth is good. Yeah, well, you know, spiritual growth, you know, helping kids come together, spiritual growth, and finding common ground, that's a good thing. And I think that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing. Let's see. I'm missing all of my flyers, but that's one of the next car shows that we're going to be at that I can think of. There was one coming up, but it's just way too soon, and we're still getting the parts together. I'm still getting the money together to get the parts so I can finish up Project Spirit's front disc brake conversion. Let's see. So that covers that. More of that information will be released as time goes on. I'm needing to get over and see the kids over at the Bonne Terre Library. Bonne Terre Memorial Library. If I'm able to, I'll be putting on a magic show for the kids. So if you got kids and want to, you know, I'm an amateur magician. Not as good as a lot of them out there, but I do it for free. And if you don't have the money to afford a magician or to go to take your kids to see a magician, it's a great way to still let them see magic. Yes, you can come. Bring yourself. So if I'm feeling well enough, I'll probably go and see them. Probably this next Thursday. Y'all might have to just hold me to that and say, you know, you really should go see those kids. As a matter of fact, I do have a new one where a card trick that I do blindfolded. Pretty cool, huh? For the record, if you ever see any stuff that I do, you know, as far as magic goes, you ever see me do it and you're able to figure it out, please don't tell, oh, I know how you did that, blah, blah, blah. No, don't do that in the middle of the show. Do I believe in magic? That's an interesting question. I believe there is a magic that runs through this world, and we just can't explain it. Do I believe in illusionary magic? Well, I don't know. I know some interesting magic tricks that just blows everybody's mind. Good stuff. Good stuff. But the strongest magic of all is the magic of love. That's just how I'll put it. You know, being pagan, yeah, that's the strongest magic there is, the magic of love. Let's see. So that covers that. Oh, the mini movie. Do I believe in Spider-Man? Well, I don't know. Do you believe in Spider-Man? No, I don't believe in Spider-Man, but I do believe that comics are a great way to carry on the old age of mythology. It's just a modern version of mythology, and I think that's really awesome. Trying to find a radioactive spider to bite you. That's awesome. Let's see. Let's see. Car shows covered. Let's see. The mini documentary movie. I just got to sit down and finish up the last little bit. Real quick. Uh, in my drinking days, I was known to flash. Walk up to my other half and just. Anyhow, um, probably not what you're talking about. Anyhow, let's see. The mini documentary movie, known as Protect and Serve, which is kind of based it'll be exposing the capabilities or lack thereof of a police department right here in Missouri, the Washington Police Department. Um, and it is very laughable. Try not to, it's very laughable. If you support me on Patreon and you are the one that provides the most money, you will be getting a flash drive copy of that, a special edition. It is. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Um, which I have the flash drive right here. Whoever is basically there is a giveaway on my Patreon account. Whoever subscribe, basically is able to donate the most money to my Patreon account. I have an actual thing of giveaway stuff that actually right there. It'll include a pocket-sized AA big book or the book self-titled Alcoholics Anonymous, which I will sign and maybe even leave some words of wisdom in that book. So that'll be included along with some different stuff that I have picked up from car shows, like some Summit Racing stickers, things like that. Who knows what else I might throw in there? But included in there will be kind of what I would like to call a director's cut of Protect and Serve, which is the mini documentary. The biggest bulk of that will be music. The regular documentary will be. I won't be rapping in this. I'm not a very good rapper. The closest I ever came was doing he's not alive anymore. My uncle and I used to do a version uh, of the Beastie Boys of a Beastie Boys song. I'm trying to remember. No, yeah, we did a little bit of my uncle and I used to do we used to do songs by the Beastie Boys. That was about as close as I ever came to rapping. By the way, one of my all-time favorite rappers from the '90s was not did not do gangster rap. It was a guy who did a song called "I Wish" by Skee-Lo. Uh, that was one of my all-time favorites from the '90s. He did that was the only he was a one-hit wonder. But anyhow, there will be a director's cut, including maybe even some music videos that were previously released on the Prince Magnum channel. Who knows what I'll be throwing on this particular flash drive? Uh, you got a question? All right, throw it at me. I'm waiting. Yeah. Um, while that question's being typed out, but yes, the I don't believe Tupac faked his death. There's too many things that says he didn't fake his death. I don't believe Michael Jackson did, and I sure as heck don't believe Elvis did. Don't believe that. This day and age, it's really hard to fake your death. It's really hard to fake your death this day and age. Uh, at one time, I believe it was possible, but we're too connected and it's too easy to spot that stuff. If Elvis did ever fake his death, he's probably gone by now. His drug addiction probably wouldn't have allowed him to stay alive for very much longer. Elvis did plenty of drugs. Anyhow, um, let's see. So if you've not checked out my Patreon account, please do so at this after this live stream, because all the money that goes into that Patreon account will go back into Project Spirit, doing God knows what to the old girl. Most of it's going to be focused on front end stuff, because if we're going to do any crazy builds on down the road, I'd like to have her kind of hold the road really nice. Uh, Fiery death, and no, we won't do that. We know that we know that I'm gonna be around the old girl when I go. Let's not make it, soon. Let's make it later than sooner, if you catch my meaning. Let's see. I don't mess with it as much as I used to, but you can follow me on Twitter. If you check out Bert TV, and go to his Facebook page, you can usually find me and get to know me personally on Facebook. Get to know what I'm like, outside of the Prince Magnum channel, which it really isn't that much difference. There isn't much of a difference other than just in real life. I play up more real, larger than life here on the Prince Magnum channel. Really, I'm the same guy. It's just on here on the channel, I'm more larger than life, is the best way I know how to put it. You know, and you get to know me on Facebook. Eventually, you could even have a phone conversation with me, and really pick my brain away from the Prince Magnum channel, and really get to know some of my thoughts and feelings outside of what I won't just typically air. No, I wasn't trying to say. I don't necessarily think I'll save the world, but I'm just going to try to save the world around me as the best I can do. If anything I say strikes a chord and makes people think and think in a more positive light, then that's then I guess you could say I'm saving the world one person at a time. Then, and if I save one world, that one person might save the whole world. So I guess I don't know if that makes me a superhero or not. I don't think it does. I think it just makes me just kind of ahead of the curve, if you will, referring to the old bell curve that you don't see in schools. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And anytime I can make somebody's day, but let me put it to you like this: when I help make somebody's day, believe it or not, you're probably helping me more than I can help you. Believe it or not, that's just the way it is. Okay. So we covered that. All right. We do need to wind this down because I got to spend time with the wife. I married her for a reason. If I didn't want to spend time with her, I shouldn't have married her. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and start winding this up. Again, check me out check out my Patreon account, because we are having the giveaway. And we're going to try to wrap that up on my birthday, August the 7th. So whoever is able to donate the most money, our goal is $1,000. So we could do all sorts of crazy stuff to Project Spirit. We're not even close to that goal right now, but if you can donate, it'd be a big help. If you can't, hey, I understand money's tight these days, but there is a giveaway. So if you're able to donate the most by August the 7th, you could win that giveaway. And in one of the next live streams, y'all might have to remind me, but I will sign that big book right there, including signing my real name. Okay. Let's see. Covered the Twitter, covered Twitter, and covered Facebook. All right. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. You'll be notified every time we upload a brand new video. Believe me, you never know what we're going to do. It just depends on how I feel that day, what we're going to do that day. And we try to do live streams because it forces me to be on target every time. So I have to know my facts and be on target. That's one of the reasons why I love live stream. Forces me to be real with y'all. There is no cuts. There is no, outtakes. What you see is what you get, and that makes it awesome. Let's see. You got anything, babe?
Nope.
All right. All right. As usual, and when we'll talk about this in one of the upcoming sober talks. The last line I use in this, but as usual, get out there and work on a project. Don't care what it is, just do something with yourself. You know, idle hands and a creative mind do not make good bedfellows. Or, as I'd like to say nowadays, you have a wonderful night yourself. What I like to say is that, you know, if you have idle hands and a creative mind, that's just living a pipe dream. Don't live a pipe dream. Get out there and make your dreams happen. And that means by getting out there and doing that project. Also, if you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. They deserve it. Okay? You know, if you didn't, if they're worth it, you'll do it. Okay? And as always, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how high you feel or how low you might feel, if no one out there has told you that they love you, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.